Welcome back to another edition of the Michigan Lacrosse Review. We're lucky enough to have with us today Wes Berg. Wes, probably one of the best attacks in the world. I think you're one of the. It's fun to watch you play. A former Denver player, now with the San Diego Seals. My first question is: you're both a box player and a field player, and you're from Canada. So I thought maybe box would be the most important, but maybe talk about what you think is your favorite.
Yeah, it's pretty cool being able to go back and forth. It's kind of exciting. Box lacrosse is what I've grown up playing, and it's a lot more similar to hockey, which is where my background is. But the field lacrosse it's kind of a different game in terms of the X's and O's, and it's a lot more of a thinking game. I think there's a lot more coaching involved in it, and it's pretty cool to be able to play both sides. It's a little bit easier on the body, so sometimes in the summer when you're getting beat up playing Canadian indoor, it's nice to have a break on the weekend and take less hacks and whacks. But I've been lucky enough to kind of play at the highest levels of both of the games and meet some awesome people along the way.
With the luck of the PLL season coming up here pretty quick, you're part of the chaos. You just got traded. And now as a professional, you're 28, so as a professional lacrosse player, you now have a landscape in front of you where you can literally play both seasons. You don't have to, there's no overlap. There's no jacking it around. Does it make it easier to make money at the sport now as a pro?
Yeah, I think it kind of allows players, you'll see a lot more Americans now that are playing both, as before it was, NLL was pretty heavy Canadian. And then there's a few guys that would, had good Division I college careers and were able to make something out of an MLL career. But with the way the PLL is lining up here with the NLL and the growth of both of these leagues, I think it's going to be, awesome opportunity for kids to come out of college and be able to make a bit more of a living rather than, having a summer job and trying to kind of battle that. And I think it's going to be pretty exciting for the future of the sport, and hoping I can hang around for quite a few more years and enjoy some of that.
You get traded to San Diego as part of this, where it's I've lived there a long time. If there's better weather in any other part of the world, I'm not sure where it is. So my question, what's it like living in San Diego?
Oh, it's unbelievable. So my roommate in college is from Encinitas here, and I've been coming down here quite a bit to visit him, and it's just unbelievable. There's no real rain, no wind, not even a winter here. So it's pretty lucky. I mean, Vancouver, I live just outside of there in Coquitlam. It's an awesome place in the summer, but you get a lot of rain, and November, sometimes you don't even see the sun for a whole month. So to be down here where we can play, box lacrosse outdoor and do all of our coaching, and it's once in a blue moon that it gets rained out. It's pretty special, and all the fun activities you can do around here on the beach, and I like to golf, so this is one of the best places in the world to do that. So I'm pretty lucky to be down here, and yeah, I absolutely love San Diego.
Do you like field or box better, or is it equal?
I think I like box better. Just, growing up playing that, the kind of the culture of box lacrosse and the players, and also just from a practice standpoint, the drills and everything, it's very similar to hockey. And I think it's more exciting scoring on a box goalie and some of the stuff you can do, or field. It's more so when you get from 10 yards or, 10 yards and in, you should be scoring every time. The goalie, that's a tough position to be in field lacrosse. They don't have as much of a chance in tight. So I think I like the box game a bit better. But with that being said, I've had a ton of great experiences with the field lacrosse game, and it's kind of a different challenge.
What's your hockey background?
I just grew up playing in Coquitlam for a while, so I played AAA down there. And then when I was going to play junior lacrosse, junior hockey, we ended up making the Minto Cup and hosting that in Coquitlam and winning it. And that's kind of where I got the scholarship to Denver from. So hockey took a bit of a back seat, but I ended up going to Denver with a few guys I played hockey against that had some awesome careers there, and a few guys that have gone on and played some NHL games and played in Europe. So it's pretty fun. I pick the skates up every once in a while and play some beer league, but it's not a sport that you can just pick up like riding a bike, getting the skates on again. So it's fun to do, but I don't play at any kind of high level anymore. That's for sure.
Because your size, were you a defenseman as a hockey player?
No, I used to play when I was growing up. I'd play defense just because of kind of being able to skate backwards is how it goes when you're little. And then
Right.
I was actually a lot smaller growing up. So when I would play kind of as a first year, I'd be on the wing and I just get to kind of use my skating, my speed to go in and try to run guys over. But I was actually quite a bit smaller until I was about grade 11 and 12. I started to grow and put some weight on, and then put a lot more weight on in college. So I was kind of one of those little speedy guys growing up. One of the little runs trying to hit everybody playing hockey growing up.
When I grew up, the fat kid in the neighborhood was a goalie. And when you looked up 15 years, when it's time the kid to be 15 years later, the reality to it is that those kids ended up with more ice time than everybody else. So they usually ended up as the better skaters because they spent so much time on the ice. And in those days, it was not a lot of indoor stuff. But what's up? PLL opens when?
So we were flying out on Friday, and we had basically there quarantine for a bit, do all of our testing, and then we do the training camp for about a full week and stay in Boston for the first game at Gillette there.
All right. Let me take you basketball. Who put a lacrosse stick in your hands first time?
My dad did when I was really young. So my dad grew up playing hockey his whole life. He's from Prince George, and they just kind of started. There's some good men's leagues out there for lacrosse, so they kind of started out when he was young playing in those, and got my brother into it. And I would just, when I was about 1 or 2, kind of rip around there with a mini stick and while he was practicing, and I got pretty good at it. So I'd always played a couple of years up with some of my brother's younger buddies, and just fell in love with it from there, and been playing my whole life.
You're in the States now, and I've asked this question of a number of Canadian guys, and I have that same background. I started as a box player. My question is, there's a lot of guys masquerading as box coaches who never played box, and it seems to me they're coaching field lacrosse in a small space. And I think that the technicalities of box lacrosse are so much different than everything else. I wonder what your thoughts were.
Oh, definitely. And I think you see that a lot. Traditional places like Baltimore and Long Island, and these coaches that have, resume in college back from a while back, and they run these box programs, but they never really played much box lacrosse. And it's kind of a completely different game. There's not a whole lot of, like I said, of these plays and X's and O's and structure like field lacrosse, but kind of understanding the way the game's played and the spacing of it and the timing is really important. And I think us being out here and being able to teach a lot of these kids from a young age now, we coach basically from 6 all the way to about 22 right now in San Diego, and being able to teach these kids at a young age. We've got a group of 10-year-olds that's one of the best skilled group of lacrosse players I've ever seen. They just already within a year of kind of teaching them, they understand the box game and the finishing and kind of 2-man and 3-man side of it, and how you move the ball and the spacing. And it's pretty unbelievable to watch. So it's really important to be able to not just throw a bunch of guys together and play field lacrosse in a box arena. It's kind of a game that you need to learn from somebody who's played it for a long time and being able to teach it properly.
Quick question, and that's the PLL season comes up. Now it's a 10-yard shorter field. It makes for a quicker game. Do you think it's short enough of a field that some of the box skills help, or is it kind of washed on it? And what's your thought of playing in a shorter field?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's kind of got that feel that not only with the shorter field, but the shorter shot clock than the MLL had with the 52 seconds. There's not a whole lot of time to get the ball around and get into kind of a 2-part play where you're getting into a set that you're setting up something behind the net to then dodge out of the midfield, because by the time you get into it, you only have about 20 seconds on the shot clock to do anything. So a lot of it is really taken over with the indoor game background, where you have to be able to, give and goes and shortcuts and kind of throw a 2-man game off on one side and then swing the ball and dodge, because again, you don't have all this time. Like, in college, you can, before they put the shot clock in, you could move the ball around 5 times before you even started dodging. And I think it's helped not only from a spectator side of it, where the game's a lot quicker, but I think it's kind of made that box kind of background where there's a lot more, I guess, nifty plays in the middle and tighter spaces and things like that. So I think it's great for the game what they've done with the professional side of it in the PLL.
A great career at Denver, but is the NBC exposure helped the West Berg Foundation a little bit? Has it helped your exposure as far as retail and just being able to do more?
I think, honestly, most of the stuff that I do, it isn't from, a standpoint of like social media and doing my own clinics and stuff like that, which a lot of guys in the PLL have been able to really take advantage of. I'm pretty fortunate to be working for the Seals and do a lot of the stuff through their brand and try to grow the game in San Diego, and instead of kind of doing this, traveling shooting clinics or a lot of these things these guys do and put their name on it, which is, I think NBC's helped those guys a lot with that. And it's good to see, that guys can make some good money away from just playing, because, with injuries and all, pandemic like this where you can lose a huge part of your salary or your, what you depend on for money. I think it's been great for a lot of guys, but again, I'm fortunate that all of my time is spent trying to grow this Junior Seals brand and work with the kids in this community. So I think it's, less of putting my name out there and trying to kind of create a brand for myself, and again, be able to work with some awesome people here in San Diego.
I mean this in the best way possible, but that is it's such a Canadian answer, and such a no. I mean, it's a cool answer to hear. It's not always about the dollar, and we've had some terrific interviews from the boys north of the border, so which is where my family's from. So I can appreciate that. That's kind of an important fact. One of the things I think the Rebels did well, and you'll appreciate this, I think, being a Canadian, is they basically hired CBC sports announcers. And I think the NBC production of PLL is phenomenal. And I think with Ryan Boyle and with the Canadian approach to it, Saturday Night Hockey is in Detroit here, you certainly get this opportunity for watching Hockey Night in Canada. I think it's an exciting broadcast to watch. And I don't know what your thoughts are. Just, have you had a chance to watch any of the games?
Oh, definitely. Especially, when we're in the bubble, right? We're actually secluded kind of in between certain games. We do testing and be quarantined again. So you'd be watching the game just with your roommate on TV in your hotel room. And it's, like you said, it's awesome to see somebody like Ryan Boyle, who not only is well-spoken and great announcer, but he understands the game. He's played it at the highest levels and, had a lot of success in college. And it's pretty cool to listen to a guy like that kind of break the game down. And meanwhile, you've got some guys who also do it just as their profession. So they do a great job of kind of not being biased behind it and really explaining the sport to a lot of these new new audience that's starting to watch lacrosse, which is, it's really exciting to see. And it's really important for the growth of the game to be able to have for some of the traditionalists, have a guy like Ryan Boyle there, and then some of these other people who are really good with this and growing the game. So I like what they've done a lot, and just to be on TV is awesome, because it's crazy. Even though I coach out in middle school program out here in San Diego, and every kid knows somebody from the PLL, but meanwhile we've got a San Diego team here right in the community that's kind of a little bit more unknown. So we're really working on growing our brand out here as well. And the PLL has done an awesome job.
San Diego has had a long time standing tradition of amateur hockey. The Gulls have been there for years. So you have that built-in model of a lot of folks that move from the East. They've had a great hockey program. I think Steve has done a great job of he's not only the president of the NLL, but I think he's done a great job of that. So you've got guys like Cam Holding, who you play with, and obviously Brody, and there's a lot of guys. They take it seriously there. And I was involved in one of the first programs at Rancho Bernardo, start field lacrosse way back in the 80s, and it was nothing. And look at it now. I mean, if you look at some of the teams there, it's a pretty phenomenal area as far as lacrosse goes.
Oh, for sure. And here's the Gull Stadium, and our stadium actually right out in front of me. So our practice facility is right behind it, and it's pretty awesome. This building has a lot of history behind it with the concerts, but also if you've seen the documentary Ice Guardians, where the Gulls kind of had one of the toughest AHL teams in the Iron League back there. So it's pretty cool to again be in San Diego and like you alluded to with guys like Steve Gubbett and Cam Holding, that they work so hard to not only make sure that the Seals are bringing in fans and really getting involved in the community and having an awesome product for people in San Diego, but kind of intertwining in the community and doing a lot with people kind of outside of the lacrosse world. So it's really exciting to be a part of, and it's been a lot of work, especially through this pandemic, trying to jump through a lot of hoops to make things work. But I think down the road, things are really going to pay off, and you're going to see not only kids out of San Diego that already have been going Division I and starting to play professionally, but I think this is going to be the next hotbed, and not just the U.S. and Canada, but basically in the world. When this sport starts to pick up, there's just a ton of people switching from soccer and football to pick up a lacrosse stick, and so much talent down here. It's exciting to be a part of.
Will Yateman's dad, Will played at Notre Dame, was a San Diego boy. He was tight end, I think, at Maryland after he left Notre Dame. His dad was instrumental in getting San Diego lacrosse off the ground before anybody really even knew what it was. And I'm going all the way back to the early 1980s. So it's a great legacy.
Oh, definitely. I've actually worked with Dennis a couple of times, just doing almost like these tri lacrosse clinics, and he's still out there in the community, not just working with the kind of better players, but he's in there with the 6-year-olds who are just learning to pass and catch. And he's awesome. It's just an awesome guy, but to see his patience out here and how long he's been doing it, when you have people like that, it's so good for, the sport of lacrosse in the community here. So he's a great guy, and he's always at all the Seals games as well.
Let me take you briefly from the Minto Cup to Denver. I'm assuming that your connection was Matt Brown.
Yeah, that's right. So Matt Brown, growing up in Burnaby and playing for, Burnaby Junior A. And actually, ironically, it was Coach T's son, Trevor, though, that had seen me play a couple times. That was the one that was heavy recruiting me. So it was actually more Trevor Tierney than Brownie. But, I was lucky enough to play on U19 with Brownie coaching it, even before I went to Denver or when we just started fall ball. So I had a great connection with him, and then just a ton of success with him in Denver and with Team Canada winning in 2014. So it's been a great relationship and a ton of fun working with him.
Say something about Coach Tierney, because there's two different coaches, as you know. There's the fatherly, wonderful gentleman you want to have dinner with, and then there's Coach T, who lost a tough one a couple of days ago, and you see the face that when penalties are in that overtime period, it's just maybe talk about Coach Tierney a little bit.
Oh, for sure. It's so funny because you see him on TV and him working the refs and how he's such a menacing figure. And, even at practice, you hear funny stories about the way he'll, some of the things you say that I probably can't repeat, but the way he'll kind of ridicule guys that, might not be working hard or just make some dumb decisions over and over again. And he's a guy who really gets the best out of you. But the thing that everybody loves about Coach T, and you've probably heard it a million times, is he's a guy who truly, away from lacrosse, you see a lot of things happen with his players, whether personally or they're in trouble or something like that. And he's a guy who'll do anything to go to bat for you. And, if you need a reference letter, you need a connection, like he's a guy who, I don't know how he has time to do it, but within the day, if you call him or something like that, he's the first guy to help you out. And just an amazing person. He's probably one of the most kind and hardworking people you'll ever meet, but he cares about his players more than anybody I've ever seen. And that's on the field and away from the field. But like you said, he's kind of got a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde effect where he goes absolutely banana lands on the sideline. And once he puts that coaching hat on, he's like a completely different person. And then, away from it, from a personal level, he's one of the best people around.
ECA Rookie of the Year, which was phenomenal. You won a national championship at Denver. You kind of put them on the map. I think it was the first time any coach had won west of the Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. First time in the history of school had won the national championship for lacrosse. I wasn't bordering the Atlantic or west of the Mississippi. They call it. My geography is. I'm still working on that from an American standpoint, but Denver being as far as far west as it is, I think that was really, really cool for, again, the growth of the sport and showing that not only were we a school that was, away from the East Coast, but a ton of our players were from San Diego, west coast of Canada, Colorado. We had players from, Tennessee, and it just all over the place, and players that had grown up in non-traditional hotbeds. And then, of course, we had some Baltimore and Long Island kids, but majority of our makeup was kids from all over the place that, a lot of people, if you were to go there and ask, a random person in the street about lacrosse, they might have no idea about the sport at all. So it was really cool to see. It just showed how much lacrosse is growing and how much it's spreading through the U.S. And to be able to win, it kind of solidified that. And I think it helped spark a lot of this box lacrosse that you see in Denver and their U.S. box lacrosse, because it showed how important the background is of people playing a sport that is different than field, but it translates really well and it builds up the skills. So it's growing like wildfire out here. You see up in Huntington Beach and San Jose and San Francisco how much the indoor game has grown out here, and then of course Denver and even Ohio and all these places. So I think that was really important for us being able to win that and kind of solidify that.
Player of the tournament, 2015. You were the best college player in the country for that tournament. So that's a highlight. What's any thoughts on that?
No, I appreciate it saying that, but it was it was pretty cool to be able to play on a team with a ton of talent, and we had everybody on that team tugging on the same rope. And I was lucky to get the I guess maybe the individual accolades and glory behind it, because I was shooting the ball a lot. But there's, we had the Canizaros doing a lot of the leg work, and guys like Zach Miller and Tyler Pace doing a lot of things that just contributed to it in our defense, and goaltending stepped up. And it was a time that was, we got hot at the right time, but we'd been knocking on the door for a while. Even my first year, we'd lose to the eventual champions and then making the Final Four every year. And we were just so close, and to get over that hump was that's the best way you can possibly go out to end your college career. So it was, it was an exciting time, and it was kind of icing on the cake of going to a school and playing for a program that, I had an unbelievable time, whether we were winning games or not. But the lacrosse side of it really worked out, and it was a pretty cool life experience. It was one of the, coolest championships to win when you got 30,000+ people in an NFL stadium, and just a great experience, and, a pretty exciting fashion, the way we got into the finals and winning in overtime, and then, taking it home on Memorial Day was something I'll never forget.
I mentioned a number of times on the show that I think Matt Brown is to Bill Tierney what Jerry Byrne for a long time was to Kevin Corrigan at Notre Dame. A head coach on a staff that's an assistant coach, but Matt Brown has some offensive. We use a number of Matt's theories here in Detroit from some of my offensive stuff. Talk about Matt's prowess as an offensive coach since you're in attack.
Yeah, so Brownie's an innovator. He's always trying to kind of fool defenses, and like I said, with the field lacrosse, there's so many different systems and there's so many different plays you can run from, not only transition standpoint, but to 6-on-6 and then man up. I used to kind of joke with him that I should have a QB sleeve out there with the amount of plays that we have and sets, because I forget them half the time. But he just does a great job. He works really hard. He's always watching film and breaking down how, he's going to beat a system like Notre Dame, who's got such a unique defense and kind of a solid foundation for what they do. And then they got great athletes that run around. So we would change things all the time, playing, just almost changing sets or plays to try to fool those guys. And then, with the shot clock and the way the game has changed into a bit faster, I think he's adapted to that pretty well. And, this game is still, from a college and professional standpoint, it's still growing a lot. So there's a ton of different athletes coming in, and I think you always have to be innovating and kind of changing how you approach the game, because you got kind of I guess, adapt or die mentality out there. So I think with the shot clock, it's probably given him a little, or maybe the players a little more free reign to do some stuff and go to the net and be less structured like the box lacrosse game. So it's kind of a hybrid in between that, which is pretty interesting. But Brownie's, been able to figure it out at the world championship level in college, and so it's pretty cool to sit back and watch the Denver games. Even though we had some heartbreak the last couple of years, it's been cool to be a fan.
Talk briefly about what it's like to play for your country.
I mean, it's kind of the coolest honor you can have. There's so many good players out of Canada, and us being kind of a smaller country and a tight knit community where a lot of these guys you've either grown up playing against or with, to be able to put that jersey on. And I mean, the success we had in 2014 in Denver was like none other. That's one of my favorite memories. We were, a massive underdog playing the U.S. and being able to pull that championship out in what was kind of like my hometown at the time. I was living out in Denver was something pretty cool. There was a lot of Denver fans rooting for the red and white instead of the red, white, and blue there. So it was pretty cool to see. And Brownie's a huge part of bringing like a lot of Denver influence in on that. And we had such a good group of guys from Mark Matthews and Jeremy Noble and guys that I played in Camp Flynn, guys I played with at Denver. To be able to win it was an unbelievable feeling. And then some heartbreak in Israel, but every time you put the jersey on, it's a giant honor, and it's something you never take for granted.
Wes, you've had a chance to wear a lot of uniforms and listen to the national anthem as a player, and then all of a sudden you get a chance to listen to your national anthem with the maple leaf on your chest. It is different, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the whole kind of country getting behind you and rooting for you. It's watch. It's not on the same level as the Olympics or the World Championships with hockey, but you kind of get that feeling when you get to line up for the national anthem and you get those, the pregame kind of like the goosebumps. Hearing your national anthem is something pretty special.
We were around the 2006 national Canadian championships when they were held in London, and I still have my Canadian national team got gloves, the whole deal. We were part of the England group, and it was fun to watch the Gates and Maricek and the boys play their last. The cool part of that was there's Brody Merrill was on that team, a guy you play with now, and the old guys got a chance to play with the young guys. So it was the World Championship, the FIL World Championships are pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, it's pretty awesome, and getting to play with Brody now in San Diego. He was a guy when I was younger that you look up to a ton, and now to be able to play with him is something pretty special. That's a lot of when I was in college and getting to play with guys like that. John Grant Jr. actually ended up coaching, and Gary Gate and guys that are your heroes growing up, to be around them and learn from them is just part of one of the best experiences you can have.
Briefly, NLL, you end up in Calgary, now you're in San Diego. Maybe compare those two towns.
Oh yeah, I mean, Calgary was the weather's sure a lot different, but Calgary was such a fun town, such a great fan base. That's one of the loudest arenas you'll ever play in. They can sell out games, and my mom's actually from Calgary, and I have a ton of family out there. So I had a whole bunch of fun getting to play in front of I'd have like 30 to 50 cousins at a game sometimes, and such a great sports city. And it was, I had fun living there and doing some stuff in the community, but I'm sure happy to be able to spend my winters down in San Diego and do some of these clinics outside and play golf and stuff like that in December, which you'll never be able to do in Calgary. So I'm fortunate to be able to that I had that experience there and to be around family. And then this is kind of just a new life down here that is I really appreciate being down here.
The T-shirt you're wearing at the moment is from back home. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. The Coquitlam Adnax.
How many people ask you that question and where it is?
Oh, a ton. It's funny because Adnax is actually Canada spelled backwards, but it's one of the oldest names in the indoor game. So the salmon bellies have been there forever, and then at a certain time it was the newest Adenacks, and then they were the Salmonacks. So now it's with a lot of people moving out to Coquitlam, that's been a huge rivalry for almost probably 40, 50 plus years in senior and junior lacrosse. But I grew up playing there my whole life, and to be able to win a Minto Cup at home in Coquitlam was another one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. And now playing on the senior team, which is actually everything shut down this summer, which is pretty sad for especially a lot of people back home that, this is what they're probably looking forward to all summer with all the madness of the pandemic. Is definitely tough time for everybody. So I got my shirt on out here in San Diego in support, but hopefully we'll be back and up and running in the next summer.
Talk briefly, if you would, the upcoming season for the PLL before we wrap this up. You're going to play for Andy Towers now at the Chaos?
Yeah.
That's not unlike playing for Bill Tierney to some extent.
Well, I think people love Andy's his passion out there, and he's definitely loud and outgoing, but he's pretty positive. You can just hear him. He likes to get the best out of his players, but I think a lot of his energy comes out positively, and guys love his energy, and it's going to be an exciting team to play on. There's a ton of players with kind of that box background, so I'm really excited to play with some guys that I've played with and against over the years, and even watching their game and playing against them, they do have a lot of that Canadian influence and that box influence. It's an exciting way to play the game.
You're going to play with Kyle Thompson. And my question, I talked to Scott Marr. We interviewed Scott earlier in the process. I said, how was it when you get those kind of talents? Do you adjust the talents to the team or the teams to the talent? And he kind of said you have to sort of work around with their talents because you got to keep your eyes open. It's a Magic Johnson thing. You better look for a pass because it's coming. What's it like playing with somebody of this skill? You have great skill, but Lyle's just a little different when it sort of that, kind of freelance play. What's your thoughts on that, learning to play with a guy like that?
Yeah, well, I think Miles is on the Chaos. I think Lyle's on the Cannons.
Okay, my mistake. Well, Miles the same way then.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think you'll see just a ton of guys like that who have that kind of creative background, and they've been playing the game of lacrosse for so long, and they've got great instincts. And you've seen it in Albany that they're not running a whole bunch of sets and stuff. They kind of let Lyle be the initiator and almost quarterback. And it's awesome playing with guys like that. And when you get to professional, right, sometimes you can have about 5 or 6 guys like that on the field, and there's only one ball. So it's the way you kind of have to be able to, build chemistry really quickly and be able to be on the same page. And so it's a lot to figure out. And, you only get about a week of training camp, right? And it's much different than a lot of these other professional sports where they've got preseason and training camp for, a couple months on end. So it's kind of the team that can figure out, it quickly. That's why the Whip Snakes have had so much success with, a ton of Maryland influence where these guys have played with each other for years. So being able to play with guys, like the Thompsons and Byrne and all these, unbelievably skilled players, it's a ton of fun. It's just kind of who clicks and figures out the chemistry first that has the most success on offense.
With losing the MLL, and I'm going to wrap this up here because I know you're busy, but with losing the MLL, the league, I think, gets better because there's more talent. It's also harder to find a job, which makes for a better league. Is that a fair estimation?
Oh, for sure. I mean, again, there's so many guys. That was one of the tough things about the MLL, kind of being absorbed by the PLL here is a ton of my buddies that they've got a ton of field skill and, they're out of a job. So it's disappointing on that aspect where the guys love playing the game. And again, that's a huge source of their income. But at the same time, to be able to have one league in the outdoor league, it kind of, it makes it a bit more professional on that end. And it also makes a ton of competition, and the product is unbelievable because you really have the best players in the world and there's only so many spots on a team. So it becomes very competitive, and I'm sure it will expand, year by year and get into some more teams because there'll be a lot of really talented guys that are out of jobs this summer, which again, it's tough. It's disappointing and it's hard for a lot of guys. Right. And But at the same time, it's making the league that much more competitive and the talent level that much higher.
I think the game becomes faster as the talent improves. I think that's something that just has to happen. And I don't know that it'll translate on television, but it'll certainly translate in live action.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely it, right? The game, the athletes that are just getting bigger, stronger, and faster, and then the stick skills and all of that is something that's just keeps getting better with the amount of competition out there. So it's going to be a great spectator sport, and I think, like I keep saying, I think this PLL is going to help grow the game a ton. So it's great to be a part of.
What do you anticipate for yourself this summer?
It's going to be interesting talking to Andy. I'm going to be playing a bit of attack, possibly in some midfield, and that's what I've been used to doing. I kind of been fortunate enough to be a bit of a chameleon. I started out in Denver, basically playing D midi just to get on the field and figure it out, and then Mark would just tell me to not go off the field, and he'd chuck me the ball, and I'd start scoring goals. So they had to play me at two-way midi, and that's how I was able to get in games early, not understanding field lacrosse at all at Denver. So I hadn't played very much, but I was able to get a lot of playing time that way. And then, even playing with the NLL, we had great attackmen when I got drafted. And I've been playing attack the last few years and was able to pick up midi again right where I left off. So it's going to be interesting. I'm just, you get on a team and a new team like that, you just got to kind of find your role. And whether it's scoring goals or dodging and moving the ball quickly through the midfield, that's what you got to do to contribute and help your team win.
Are you a natural scorer, or is it just because of size and prowess of strength?
I think just from the box background, that's always, kind of been my job, is being able to initiate and shoot the ball well and score when I have a chance, but also try to create and get the other guys open. So, field lacrosse, I kind of played a few different roles where when I've been playing midfield, it's more of beating your guy and drawing a slide and trying to get the hockey assist, where my last couple of years at Denver being an attackman, it was more catch and shoot, which is it's probably a little more fun, just kind of hiding in the weeds and getting to shoot the ball every time you get a chance. But I just enjoy the game and enjoy winning, so I'll do whatever role will help the team win.
Well, Wes, I wanted to thank you for your time. You've really enlightened us a bunch. This is the first interview for the second half of our second season, and we've been busy like you with seasons and getting through the lacrosse spring, which was just fun back to play and trying to move the ball forward a little bit. So we appreciate your time, and we certainly wish you the best of luck in the upcoming PLL season.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on, and it's great to see you guys doing this. It just shows, like I said, when you have these kind of networks and these shows, it shows how much the game is growing, and having viewers and an audience for it is great to see. So appreciate you having me on. I'm sure we'll talk soon.